Hello and welcome to week 4. Sorry, my other classes are on a different schedule, so I had to remind myself of week 4 of the psychology of adulthood. And we enter into this new stage called emerging adulthood. And this is actually something that I've been anticipating for several years. It was really interesting putting this content together for you because I still have this perception that this is a new emerging part of the world of psychology, yet the founder of the idea of emerging adulthood published his first paper on it in the year 2000. So 21 years of development, and it's certainly not a new idea, but it's gaining momentum in terms of changing the basic psychology foundation and including it in textbooks now. So the textbook that I have right now is the first textbook of teaching developmental psych since 1997. It's the first textbook I've ever encountered that actually has that as a chapter. So 21 years. Arnett's been a patient man to bring this to fruition here. So we look at our timeline here, and what we have is the chapter 4, emerging adulthood. There are 2 discussions and an assignment, and we are continuing our chapter 3 assignment this week. Now the chapter 3 assignment, where you come up with a test of adulthood and exchange it between another person, I'm going to be looking into that. I think there are many groups that have come around. They're starting to coalesce together. Brightspace has a curious way of hiding who's in the groups. I have to actually dig quite a bit to find out who's actually in the groups, and I'll be doing that this afternoon to reach out to individuals who have not participated yet, and we'll see where things go from there. But that assignment continues this week, and again, if you look at the assignment, once you posted all the things that you need to post as a pair, you're done. Go ahead, you can even send me an email and say, hey, we're done, go ahead and grade this, and I can go ahead and do that, and that will be the end of that particular discussion. So today we are in chapter 4, and I'm going to get us into the course book here. So emerging adulthood, and what we see right off the bat here is this is a new stage. I hope you get the humor of my little 5 3/4 King's Cross, London, little Harry Potter reference there. But this is a new stage that appears, if we're going to take this from the Erickson's stage theory, it's between 5 and 6, hence 5 3/4, this new stage in between adolescence, where we see the notion of identity versus identity confusion or diffusion, and young adulthood, the stage of intimacy versus isolation. And it's a stage which we recognize a further development of the concept of adulthood. And I put a little cartoon here, kind of person still eating cereal for dinner. Sure, we know some people like that. We're going to be looking at discussing our personal experiences with adulthood and adulting, with emerging adulthood and adulting, the various services of the adulting school, and you're going to review a article on emerging adulthood. That will be the assignment. So we begin here, this new stage, again, looking at this that has now been created, called, just as we have those dichotomies in each one of Erickson's stages, trust versus mistrust, and autonomy versus doubt. And, those, we have incarnation versus impudence. And in order to really kind of understand this, we have to take a look at what these particular terms mean. So incarnation really is, if you look at the bottom here, to incarnate is to accept adult roles and responsibilities with realistic expectations for the future and concrete plans to achieve these goals. To be impudent means a denial of responsibilities concurrent with a lack of planning, a lack of realistic goals, and immodesty. And this is near and dear in my family. We have a couple family members who are in this stage and really making effort to make it over to incarnation, but currently in impudence. I'm sure some of you can really relate to that. And then I go into here, these are what characterizes this particular stage. And I actually, as I was preparing this material, my youngest daughter is living with us right now as she's continuing to make choices in terms of the direction of her life and whatnot. And each one of these applies to her in a very positive way. Not a, she is certainly open to all of the experiences and whatnot, and she's not failing to launch or anything like that, but she is certainly exploring aspects of her identity. There's an amount of instability in terms of where she's been living, place to place. There is a focus on her own development that's going on right now. She's feeling in between, and optimism reigns. That, you know, just the possibilities. The world is her oyster right now, and the things that she can have going on. There's also a degree of unrealistic plans. There's a shifting of priorities that's happening all the time. But in our modern society, this seems to be an emerging norm, that people go through a period of this. Not everybody, and it may be that individuals don't go through much of this at all, but certainly we're recognizing that more and more people, this sort of extended aspect of not quite adult, but certainly past, not fully adult, meaning certainly legally and in every respect and deserving of respect as adults, but not fully embracing that piece yet. There's a lot of these things that are still in motion. And some of this is reflected in the concept of boomerang kids, which are kids that have launched out, but then they come back home, and we're currently experiencing that. We've experienced it a number of times with the different children, the spending periods of time back home, sometimes leaving and then coming back again as a home base for going out there and exploring what it is that they're going to do with their lives. Now then we look at this concept of adulting as a verb, something that people are doing. They're in the process of becoming more and more like an adult. And one of the things that has been recognized is that certain skill sets associated with adulthood may or may not have been taught at the home. Now, I'm not going to brag that I had, you know, the greatest upbringing in the world, but I learned I grew up in a single mom household for the most part, and learned household management and learned finance management and learned a bunch of those kinds of skills, everyday sort of things, because that was just the way the household was run. And there is, however, a group of individuals, these people who may be going out into the world and they haven't necessarily had the opportunity to develop those skills, such as cooking their own meal or cooking like a big meal, like their first turkey dinner or something like that might be, something they simply have never had the opportunity to manage that on their own. Now, this need has been recognized so prominently that, very interestingly, right here in Portland, Maine, I think there's only one other place that I found that a school like this exists, but there is a school for adulting that is in Portland, Maine. And there's a link to it here. And let's see if I can bring us to that web page. So here are the Adulting School. This is in Portland. It's loading up. And here we see there's the home, and under Get Schooled, there are classroom events, there are events, and there are workshops. So let's look at lots of animation going on here. Let's look at classroom. And what do we get from the classroom here? Different classes that people can take on how to manage money, wellness, work, do-it-yourself, relationships and lifestyle. Let's look at money. What classes are available for money? So here, personal finance, how to budget, getting out of debt, the guide to personal finance by Acorns, an investment company, investment in stocks, personal finance, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And you can take these courses. And here's some different aspects of the. So here we are, this company that is actually providing instruction to young people, I guess any people of any age that want to learn how to do these things. You didn't necessarily get it when you became 30 either. And so these classes available for individuals who want to fill in the gaps of the socialization process that they might not have gotten when they were kids. So if we look back at the course book now, gotta navigate back to this. And let's take a look at the expectations for the assignments. So we have a discussion talking about Chapter 4, Discussion A is review that definition of merging adulthood and adulting in the chapter, particularly those points, the age of identity, the age of instability, those kinds of things, and reflect on your own experience, people around you. Chapter 4, Discussion B, visit the adulting school itself, like we just did a little bit, and look at some of those. And what I want you to think about is in the Chapter 3 assignment, you identified characteristics that make a person an adult, and just reflect on how the specific topics within that school may align with those things that you put on your list of things that make a person an adult, like say, budgeting skills or something like that. If they're missing that from your particular, if your list includes budgeting and being able to manage a household budget, and they don't have that, so therefore they don't meet the full criteria of adulthood for you yet, they can go take a class on it. So making that connection between your list and the actual classes and events that they have at the adulting school. And finally, what I'm asking you to do here is to do essentially an article review. But the article I want you to do a review on has to have been published in the journal Emerging Adulthood. Now, doing searches on the UMA library webpage to find a specific journal is a little daunting. I've done the, quote, Emerging Adulthood, and sometimes it comes up in the title, or sometimes it comes up as the journal name, because that's the journal's name, Emerging Adulthood, not the Journal of Emerging Adulthood, just Emerging Adulthood. But I want you to find an article in that specific journal that's been published within the last 24 months, I think I said, and any topic. Any topic in there, review the topic. So you're going to be submitting a title page, a summary of the article and its methodologies and findings, and then a brief critical review of the applicability of the findings and what's the usefulness of this information. But specifically from that journal. So this may entail, and for many of us, including me, would entail getting in touch with a person at the library, a librarian, and saying, I need to find articles in this journal. Can you help me do that? You could also look up the journal itself, Emerging Adulthood, the journal, look in the indexes of each one of those and look up the article that you find is useful or for this purpose. So you're going to the web, to the actual journal itself, which you can't see the articles that way because it's a paid for journal. Find one that you like in one of the indexes within the last within the last 2 years, and then go into the search of the UMA library and see if you can find it there. And if not, and you really want to get it because it's a cool article, then contact the librarian to get it for you. Don't ever pay for these things. You're in college. You don't have to pay for these. Your college library services support getting you copies of articles that you want to do. Now, when you submit this, however, you're submitting the paper for me to grade. In addition to that paper, you are also submitting the actual copy of the article that you did. So you don't want to read this on the web. You want the downloadable PDF of that article. Read the whole thing. This is an exercise in reading literature. It's dense, it's complicated. You've read it, you've read stuff like this before. Trying to see what you can get out of that particular article, particularly, that kind of summary and then the application. The application's really important. How would this information be useful for a parent or services to individuals or to a college or to an employer, developing an understanding of whatever's going on, or of course to the individual who's going through emerging adulthood. So the assignment is really, has those two pieces to it, your paper and a copy of the article. So I want to be able to download both of those. I'm going to read all of it and evaluate the paper using those criteria. And the criteria of that evaluation is in the grading rubric right here at the end of the course, at the end of the chapter in the course book. Okay, so that's it. It's a smaller topic here, and I apologize for this getting out late. I'm going to make better effort to get these out on Monday morning as usual, and so I'll see you in the discussion boards, and I hope you enjoy this particular assignment, doing some research here in that particular journal. So I will see you later. Have a great week.